Hello, I'm Beth Joey and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, welcome. This is the channel where I paint my face, turn my camera on and talk about some books. I was looking through my shelves the other day and I had a long hard look at them and I thought, if I had to give up all of my books, every single one except 5, which would be the 5 books that I would keep till the end of days that I could not give up? And that's exactly what this list is. These are the 5 books that I absolutely cannot live without. These are not ranked in any sort of 1 to 5 way. They are just 5 books that I absolutely love. So let's start off with book number 1, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Yes, I am an Addie LaRue girly. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue follows Addie LaRue and it starts 300 years in the past when, in order to escape an arranged marriage that Addie wants no part of, she makes a deal with the devil, which essentially the consequences of that deal are she'll live forever, but she will be forgotten by every single person she meets. Until one day she goes into a bookstore and attempts to rob it, basically, and the man at the bookstore remembers her the next day. So why? Why is this a book that I can't live without? Firstly, it is so moving. It is a book where I went into it going, I'm probably not going to like this because I don't like character studies. I don't like books that are so focused around characters and less focused around plot, and you know, I think they're really slow and boring, but this book made me entirely rethink that. It's so beautifully written, and despite not having a main plot to follow, you will really find yourself stuck in this book because of how you fall in love with the writing and the characters. The mixed media elements throughout the story definitely enhance it. It's mostly artwork because they add to the sort of overall message, I would say, of what this story is, which is even if you're living a life where everyone's forgetting you and you feel like you're not making your mark on the world, there are ways in which you can leave that impression. And for Addie, that is through artwork, through influencing art and music and leaving her memory in people's mind as an inspiration or a muse rather than necessarily a physical human being. And I think that that is really beautiful. The character growth throughout the story is absolutely incredible as Addie faces the despair of being alone before finally being remembered by a character and finally getting to feel and remember what it's like to be truly loved and appreciated and remembered. And there's this amazing mystery element as well of trying to figure out what makes this boy in the bookshop, Henry, so different, and the heartbreak that comes alongside that discovery absolutely tore me up. Plus there's an amazing and sort of ambiguous ending that you definitely feel real girl power when it happens, but all in all, I love this story because of what it says about how you can leave your mark on the world even if you feel like you're going to be forgotten when you're gone, and it's so soul-soothing. Book number 2 is House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. This is book 1 in the Crescent City series, and when I first got this, I absolutely destroyed the dust jacket for it, so I'm just gonna hold it up and you're gonna have to trust that it is the right book. As for what this is about, it follows Bryce Quinlan, who is half fae, half human, and all party girl, until one night where she comes home from a night out and she finds her best friend and her best friend's pack violently murdered in her flat, and her whole life spirals out of control. 1 year later, with the supposed perpetrator in prison, Bryce's life begins to look a whole lot different as she finally has a handle on things, until one day she is wrapped back up in the mystery again because these really violent murders that look exactly like the way her best friend was murdered start right back up again, and she's thrown into the heart of the investigation with Hunt Athalar, a fallen angel that is enslaved to the archangels in power in this city, assigned as her bodyguard and forced to help her solve the mystery so that he can gain his freedom. So why? Why is this another book that I can't live without? Well, this is the book that got me back into reading. Right around when COVID hit in 2020, I was obviously, like a lot of people out there, really struggling with the idea of not being able to go out and do anything, and I really needed escapism, and that is exactly what this book gave me. It gave me a chance to get out of my own head for a little while and truly thrust myself into a world with characters I fell in love with and sacrifices and betrayals and heartbreak that really had me feeling everything else except for what I was feeling right around the time that the pandemic was going on, that loneliness and that isolation that I'm sure everybody else was feeling at the same time as well. And this book really triggered in me this drive to read more and get into booktube and bookstagram and be a part of this book community that I had no idea existed. And honestly, I can credit this book for truly changing my life. So that is why this book is so important to me. But as for what I think of it, I think it is so moving. It makes you fall in love with the characters so quickly. So when those more heartbreaking scenes at the end come and throw you for an absolute loop, you really feel it. And I felt everything in this story. I'm actually considering getting a tattoo that is based off of this story, but I need to decide where I want it and all that sort of thing. So maybe that'll be something I bring you guys along for as part of a vlog. I don't know, but yeah, that's why this book is something I can't live without. Book number 3 is Loveless by Alice Oseman. So as for what this is about, it follows Georgia, who is entering into university with her 2 best friends. And as she goes through the paces and is sorted into a dorm that is different to the ones her friends are in, she begins to really wonder and question why she has such a different feeling and approach towards romance and sex than her friends do. And she really begins to question why she's different, you know? She loves fan fiction. Why can't she make a romance like in fan fiction happen for herself in real life? And she begins to really feel hopeless and feel like she can never truly be loved until she finds the LGBT society at her university, and she's introduced to terminology such as asexual and aromantic, and she finds a community of people and forms a friendship that is truly going to last forever for her. And it really gives her the confidence to be herself and feel like she's not so weird and abnormal. She finds community and she finds solace in that community. And as for why this book means a lot to me, why I can't live without it, is because I felt so connected to Georgia. She felt so relatable because the things that she was experiencing, the confusion and the feeling of abnormality and the feeling of why aren't I like everybody else, is something that I definitely felt when I was going through university and I began to have feelings for other women in my life. This book definitely is a huge part of what gave me the confidence to be out and proud and talk to people about my bisexuality, and it helped give me the confidence to feel like that wasn't strange, like that was something that was totally normal and totally accepted, and there was a whole community of people out there who are totally supportive of that and wouldn't judge me for it. As for what else I love about this book though, I love the way it's written in this almost diary entry in her head kind of way. So you really feel like you are sitting right alongside Georgia as she's having these thoughts, as she's having these experiences. You're feeling it all right along with her as she goes through feeling really different to her friends, feeling separate, feeling isolated, making new friends, being exposed to a community that she doesn't quite know how she fits in with, but soon finds her place. I liked that it discussed a whole range of genders and sexual identities as well without feeling tokenistic. There is a ton of representation in this book, and it doesn't toe the line between being, you know, authentic and preachy. It is just straight up authentic, and it is a beautiful read that I think frankly should be read in schools to just normalize the idea that people are different, people want different things, people feel different ways about different things, and that's okay. Sorry, I just had like a massive coughing fit. I don't know what that was. But anyway, book number 4 is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. So as for what this is about, it follows Lily, who after the funeral of her abusive father, she finds herself up on the roof of a building contemplating life. And soon she's sort of met on the roof of that building by a stranger named Ryle. They decide to have a one-night stand until Ryle is called away because he works at a hospital and he's on call, so he's called away. And Lily kind of brushes this off as, you know, a missed opportunity that, you know, she'll never have to think about again. Until a few months later, she bumps into Ryle yet again in her flower shop, and they decide to spark up a romance that will ultimately change her life forever. At the same time, you've got a sort of second timeline of running where Lily takes you through in her own mind, in the moment, experiencing first love with a young homeless boy named Atlas Corrigan, who suddenly makes a reappearance in her life in a way she never expected as an adult. As for why I can't live without this book, a huge part of it is because of the bravery the author had to tell this story. If you don't already know, It Ends With Us is sort of inspired by Colleen Hoover's mother's experience. Her mother, I believe, was in an abusive relationship and was able to get her and her family out of it. So Colleen, I think, is really brave in telling that story and giving exposure to, you know, domestic abuse and domestic violence in a way that really challenges the reader to look at all sides of it and to look at how multiple people can be impacted, whilst also having this really beautiful story of first love running through at the same time that just gives you all the warm and fuzzies and keeps you going through the read, makes it light in moments where it needs to be light. This sort of first love storyline really expertly sort of contradicts and juxtaposes everything that she's going through with Ryle. And I loved the writing, especially in that first timeline with Atlas Corrigan in that younger mindset, because I feel like Colleen Hoover really nailed the voice of a young girl going through first love and trying to muddle her way through it and muddle through the confusing feelings that she was having. So 100% the bravery of this author and the sort of beautiful first love story is why I cannot live without this book. And the fifth and final book that I absolutely cannot live without is Really Good Actually by Monica Heisey. This is a very, very recent read for me, but I absolutely loved it. So as for what it's about, it follows Maggie, whose life is completely flipped upside down when her husband of only 608 days decides to tell her that he wants a divorce. And so it sends her on this completely messed around journey of finding joy and meaning in her newfound singledom. Told as Maggie barrels through her first year as being a single woman, as she takes up new hobbies, new experiences, tries out dating, explores new friendships, drinking, and plenty of takeaway, and it is all told through sort of chapters that are standard narrative style and very much in Maggie's own mind, as well as these hilarious chapter breaks that take you really into her mind in a single moment of what she was experiencing in that moment through Google searches that she was typing on her computer on that day, or fantasies that she had in her dreams that night. Unhelpful advice given by others at family events, and it just is really, really comedic and hilarious when those situations happen. But why can I not part with this book? Part of why is because it makes me feel real good about my life and everything whenever something bad happens. And I have to give context as to why. So Maggie's life is obviously flipped upside down and she spirals and she makes a ton of really bad decisions. Frankly, reading this book offers so much perspective because I can look at my life and I can look at bad things that happen and go, I can recover from that and at least I won't do what she did. It immediately makes me feel better because I'm not spiraling in the same way. But that aside, the thing that I love most about this story were the chapter breaks. So as I mentioned, the chapter breaks are really moments where it takes you into Maggie's mind through the Google searches she made on her computer that day, unhelpful advice, fantasies, and they are so comedic as well as offering you this really insane insight into exactly what she was thinking, exactly what her mind frame was at, because at the end of the day, the narrative style story, it's in her head, but she's able to edit that and censor that, whereas she can't censor her Google searches, she can't censor the advice that she's getting from others. And on that train of censoring, I found it so interesting that when I first picked up this book, I thought that Maggie was being really authentic, really open, really just recounting all the shit that she was doing and being honest about it and ruthless to herself. But only later in the book do you realize that she is censoring things, she is minimizing some of the things that she's doing, she's not telling you things in order to make herself sort of appear better, and it's only through conversations with other characters that you realize just how far she's gone and just how much she's spiraled and brought other people down with her. And I really appreciated that the other people in her life really made it clear to her that they just weren't willing to put up with it. And lastly, the final reason that I love this book and cannot live without it is because of its advocacy for therapy and really going to see someone when you feel that you need to, when you feel like things are spiraling out of control. That is the decision that Maggie makes at the end of this book. She decides to go to therapy, she decides to sort her life out and talk to someone and get advice from someone who can professionally help her. And I love that that is advocated for in this story in such an authentic way. So yeah, this is the fifth and final book that I absolutely cannot live without. So there we go. This is my list of 5 books where if I had to give up every single other book on my bookshelf, these are the 5 that I would 100% stick with, 100% never leave behind. This is a list that will probably change over time because quite a few of these are very recent reads. Like It Ends With Us, Loveless, and Really Good Actually. I think I've read all of those in the last year, so they're likely to be booted out by other things as the year goes on, so maybe I'll update this list every year. I don't know. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. But other than that, let me know down below what are the 5 books that you can't live without, or what other books where if you had to give up everything else, you could not leave those behind. I'd be really interested to know if we share any of those books or what your reasons are for being so in love with the books on your list. But yeah, come on, let me know what those are for you down below. I love talking to you guys and I do my best to reply to every single comment. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please do let me know by liking, subscribing, and hitting that notification bell all down below. It's a super easy way to help my channel grow, and I will see you lovely people in my next video. Bye!